Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. Just for a bit of background information, we are building our very own fully off-grid gasless VW crafter. We're about 8 weeks into the project, and so far we've done a lot of the groundwork, a lot of the foundation work, stripping it all out, getting the electrics in, we've got skylights in, windows in. We've got a few more bits and pieces to go before we start doing the main interior. But today's job is the ceiling. I've already made a start, as you can see. I didn't film this because there's lots of YouTube videos already about it, but I will cover just a few key points. So the first thing, if you're looking to build a van, the first thing to note, particularly with the VW Crafter, is there are no straight edges. Every single panel is curved in some form or another. For example, these ribs, they curve around like that. The van also curves towards the back of the van, and it narrows as you get towards the back of the van, which makes it an absolute nightmare to make anything square. So to make my job a bit easier later on when I'm building out the cupboards, for example, I am trying to square off the ceiling as much as possible. So what I've decided to do is make these strips of ply. This is just 12mm ply, and I've put some, they do curve a little bit, but the idea is that here they're pretty flush with the rib, and then they come across square, and you can just see there's about a 5mm gap on each side all the way along. And I basically put sheets of ply or panels of ply across each rib all the way along, and that will give me a point that I can then screw the ceiling ply up into, but also just helps level it off and make it square. The second thing I've done is I've then added these, I guess call them bracing bits of ply. These are actually 15 and 18mm. I just used lots of off-cut bits and pieces I could find. Got some pocket holes drilled into there, and then just attached them between the two. The reason for that, and you'll notice that they're roughly around about 30 centimeters from the edge of the wall, is when I come to do my cupboards, it just gives me a secure point that I know I can drill straight up and attach the cupboards to these all the way along. Towards the back of the van, I've actually used some Sikaflex to put a bit of a panel across the back there, and routed the cable for the Max fan through a little hole and like that. This is just holding it in place. That will come back out, and then it'll all be level, and that gives me something to screw into for the very last, effectively the last rib for the ceiling. The other job today is to remake the surround for our skylight. So one of the issues I have, now that I've dropped the ceiling height ever so slightly, is that this is actually too short. So I've got some slightly thicker batons, going to pull this down, hopefully it'll come off easily enough, and make a new window surround, glue it back up, and then that'll create a nice frame, again, that we can then screw into with the ply sheet once it's cut out. There is a slight issue though, I've noticed with the skylight, and that is the depth. So there's like another surround that goes around here. The depth is about 60mm, and my roof is now probably going to end up around 80mm, which A, means that I've got to get longer screws, which I already had to do anyway, and also it's going to create a gap between the two bits of plastics, which is going to be pretty ugly all the way around. So I'm thinking, once I've done the ceiling, we'll put the inner surround in, and then I'll probably have to get like a piece of ply just to cover this over. I'll put some like vinyl or some fabric just to make it all nice and neat all the way around. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame really that, unlike the Max van, this skylight doesn't actually drop deeper into the van. I don't know if that's because I used an adapter ring which raised up, but as you can see here, like it literally cannot go any lower. But anyway, we'll navigate around that little issue. But the main thing is getting that ceiling nice and flat. The other job for today is wiring in the remaining 2 lights. So we'll have 6 lights in total, but in between the 2 roof vents. With the ceiling, we'll then have to cut out some holes perfectly in the middle of each bay, and obviously I want them central to the roof van. These do work. They have been wired in my very ghetto wiring, as you can see there. They do look pretty sweet, but it's all going to be a case of measuring very carefully from that point there to be able to cut out these circles, put the lights in, and then the plan is to paint the ply that's on the ceiling So I don't know if you can see just there in the garage, I've got 2 sheets of 5.5mm ply. That will be a sheet will be screwed up against here. In fact, I'm probably gonna have to cut the sheet in half, and then either at this point or this point, I haven't quite decided, maybe this point here, we'll then put another bit of ply here. This will be like the join effectively between 2 sheets, and what that means is we'll have 5.5mm coming down from here, then the ceiling will be done. So let's get on with it. So I just wanted to show you what I'm doing with the lights here. You'll see that I've basically cut them as the cable runs across, and I will be joining the lights in here, but we're making sure that the voltage can still run straight across. So if this light blew for whatever reason, the voltage could still continue across to all the other lights. And how I'm doing that is I'm using these little Wago connectors. You can see that. So that will go on, and we'll then put in the light. We'll connect the light up with the Wago connector, and then join it all together. So it'll look something like that. So we'll have 2 on each light. So this is parallel wiring basically. I've got the switch there. The circuit runs all the way around, loops down to there, loops back, and ends there. But it creates a full circuit, and these lights are basically just they're like, what do you call them? Each of the lights basically feeds off the main cable, so the voltage can continue to run all the way through. And it also stops, so if you're running it in series, potentially the first light would be brighter than the last light if you're kind of daisy chaining them all up. And just as I said that, I realised that once I connect these, I'm not going to be able to, well, it's going to be a bit of a faff to disconnect them. And if I ever want to change them, I'm going to have to poke hands up in holes and all that kind of stuff. So I'm actually going to slightly change this. I'm going to put these spade connectors on the ends of these, and then I'm going to basically have an extension. So if you imagine those 2 are going to connect, but then this will come down, and then that's what I'll connect to the light there. So that's like a spear off the main light ring. So just like that, and then that means this light can just connect in and be removed nice and easily. There we go, all the lights are now wired in parallel. The last one is quite a simple connection, just literally straight through into these. I probably didn't even need that, but I just wanted to give it an extra little bit of length, just so I can tuck up there, and if I ever need to do any maintenance or shorten the wires later, I can do that. But yeah, they're all wired in. Got these nice easy disconnects. Now, moment of truth. There we go, all 6 lights. Shiny. Right, let's get onto the ceiling. So there we are, guys, that is another day done and working on the van. As you can see, it's now about 6 o'clock at night, but we have got the ceiling in. The first layer of ply is done. Got the Max fan surrounds in, and we've got the skylight surround in. As you can see, which is what I was talking about earlier, there is a bit of a gap between like the surround and the outer shell of the sky vent, all the way around. It's about 10, 11, maybe 12mm gap. I did know about this, and it just means I've got to order 80mm screws to be able to go up and join these 2 bits together. Or I could put a piece of wood in there and then you screw through the wood and into this. Either way, this is only being held on by Sikaflex and the adapter ring, which is a lot, and it's fine, it's solid, but mentally I would like something a bit more mechanical, like a screw, to be able to just join these two bits together all the way around. Obviously I haven't got the blind on just yet, but that will clip on nice and neat, and difficult to see in the camera, but that is pretty flat. I'm pretty happy with that. Got my spirit level. You can just see there. I mean, there's about a 4mm gap right in the middle, but that's fine. It's pretty flat. Like, yeah, that's flat. Flat that way. It's basically flat in the middle. You can see because there's no bend in this trim ring, and it only really curves off right at the very end, which is all going to be hidden by cupboards anyway. Certainly on that side. That side will need to be boxed in. Cupboards there, and then a shelf that side. But pretty happy with how flat that is, and the lights all lined up and looking nice. Just a little bit there. That needs screwing up a bit more. So that is another day's work. Tripped up. That is another day's work on the van. We've also made a bit of a change of plan for what we were going to do. So this is just the first layer of ply, and the plan was to paint this black or like a really dark navy, and then go get basically sheets or strips of timber to then go all the way down, so give a nice effect. But then these would just be treated in like a varnish, like a really like oak varnish or something like that. So we go down all the way down with like a 10mm gap in between each strip. However, my plan failed a little bit because this is a hardwood ply that you get for like, I got it from Bradford's, and cutting a small piece like this is fine on my little table saw, but cutting a 2.4 m sheet is a little bit more challenging, particularly by yourself. So either I need a friend to help me, or I could go down to B&Q and get them to cut it for me into 100mm strips. The problem is that B&Q only sell hard plywood, so it's okay, but it doesn't really have like a nice wood grain. Like ideally you'd want to use like a birch ply or bamboo or something nice and thin with a nice finish to it, so it stands out. And I don't want to paint it dark. Like we want to keep the ceiling really bright and light, so it had to be like a really nice natural kind of yeah, like a birch kind of look with a little bit of wood grain. And then I thought that is also a lot of effort. I mean, this has taken me all day just to do this, and I've got to take it all back down to then insulate, and there was one of these batons broke. I need to sort that out. So then we have decided to change our plan. So we are going to be fabricking, like once the pods arrive, they're currently in the paint shop, pods, those panels, window panel, they are all going to be covered in a fabric, which is that, like a nice tartan grey. So that will be going there. And then this is like a vinyl white, which will be along the top here for those windows, and this panel here, which I need to make up. And then we thought, well, why don't we just vinyl the ceiling too? So yeah, some nice sort of vinyl up on the ceiling, and it'll just be a hell of a lot easier. So we could just do the whole lot in one big vinyl sheet. Use some high temp sticky adhesive, contact adhesive. Job's done. Cut out the holes for the lights and the skylight. Happy days. Probably put like a nice little foam before it as well, so it's got a little bit of cushioning, and it just makes things like, if there's any like, I don't know, muck and splatters and food, or I mean the kids just throw food all over the place. So whilst they're sat there, we basically want anything that's around their kind of sticky hand level and face level to be in a wipeable material, and that includes the ceiling. Plus it'll make it feel really bright and airy in here, which is the whole thing that we wanted to achieve, which is why I've tried to keep as much headroom as possible. So I think that's what we're going to do. Vinyl the ceiling. So that probably concludes this vlog, and what we'll do, I'll do an update vlog once the ceiling's finished, because like I said, I've got to pull it back down, insulate it, I've just got to put more of this wool in, and then we'll be good to go. So, thanks for watching. I know it's a short video. Please like, please subscribe, please follow us for the next video. We are getting there in terms of this build. I'm aching, but loving it. If you got any questions as well, drop me a DM. Anything you've seen, anything about the electrics, the install, the layout, process, let me know. Drop me a DM, drop a comment, and yeah, it'll be good to chat. Cool, nice one guys, take it easy, boom! Alright, just before I sign off, I have just put the installation up. Put in a bit of a shift today. I've done about 13 hours working on the van. But the final installation of this plastic wall stuff from B&Q, I've now put that up. As you can see by my hands, it's pretty sticky. Got all the cables loose. Now I'm just going to apply the ceiling back up, and then we're done. Boom.